Hey guys, Jakal here from /play.net, bringing you the second game of my Crystal Maiden build, Snowblind. This was a build I developed for the weekly article Breaking the Build that I do. It's a Dota article that you can go check out at /play.net. Now, as you can see here, I'm just heading on over to the rune. I want to check the rune spot since no one else is doing it. I'm going to be going top here. I'm going top with Bounty Hunter. Now my starting items here for this build are tangos, salve, and 2 clarity potions, as well as gauntlets and the courier, of course. For this build, it's always good to get the courier because you're a support player, but you cannot focus on wards. And I was really lucky here because that bounty hunter actually bought himself some wards that he went and placed to block their neutral creep count. The reason you can't focus on wards with this particular build is because it does require quite a bit of money. But as a support who is getting a little bit of farm, you should be collecting that courier. There's my beautiful courier right there. If you have a courier that nice, then that's an extra incentive to buy one yourself. Now, if you are buying the courier, you should also get you should also take responsibility for getting the flying courier, and you should get that quite early. I believe I get it right away here with my first 220 gold. Now, as you can see, they have a jungler, and so we get the solo lane. I'm quite happy about this. I do want a little bit of farm, but I'm going to let this bounty hunter take the majority of the last shots. Now, bounty hunter, he's not a carry. A lot of people will have that misunderstanding that bounty hunter is a carry, but he does need a little bit of farm, and he does. His role is to do some right-click damage. Although, for the most part, people pick bounty hunter, especially at higher levels, just because of the track gold and what an advantage it gives. And his right-click damage is really at its peak during the mid-game. So even if you could call him maybe a mid-game carry, he certainly is not a hard carry by any means. That being said, I do want him to get some farm here, and I know that I'll be able to get some farm, perhaps from hero kills, but also I always manage to find some farm when my allies are not around. So, so far this lane is going quite well. We're harassing him back a lot, and in fact he's being quite brave here. So I make him rethink that a little bit. It costs me that clarity. I had just started a clarity, and attacking him made the creeps attacking me to take it off. So that's too bad, but it's certainly worth it. Make him pop the salve. My clarity cost 50, but his salve cost 100, so that's obviously worth it in that scenario. Now here I'm using a pretty simple technique. I'm using the Fog of War. Now he can see me because of the creep positioning, but I'm going to stay here pretty much the whole time and just try to stay in the fog so that he's worried about what I'm going to do. He's worried about when I'm going to come out, when I'm going to cast on him. And with Crystal Maiden, this is especially potent. It's always potent to use the Fog of War with Crystal Maiden, even in the early game, because once you get Crystal Nova, you can actually, the range of Crystal Nova, you can hit him with the tip of the Nova, even on the other side of the trees, very, very easily. Because of the large radius of the Crystal Nova itself and the distance that you can cast it, the range at which you can actually hit people is pretty incredible. So staying on the other side of the Fog of War like this as much as possible is really good, because then there's no indicator of when you're going to get aggressive. Your Crystal Nova comes out of nowhere, slows him, and your teammate can get aggressive right away without any foreshadowing. This is especially good here because I'm letting my teammate get the last shot, so it's really easy to stay in the fog and keep him worrying. Now here, when we're pushed up this much, I don't want him to get experience. You should never let a solo laner get more experience than necessary, and very little experience is necessary to let him get. So you want to be keeping him back, you know, as the support in your lane. You really want to be keeping that solo hero way back. And I've got that ward there telling me that their jungler is not coming anywhere near us. So I have the freedom to bully him as much as I like with my spells, and I really should. It's really easy. This is a great reason to get that 1-point Arcane Aura. And throughout these games, these 3 games, I did this Snowblind build. I was really tempted to get that 2-point Arcane Aura before I got the Frostbite. as I mentioned this in my article, but I'll go into more detail here. The reason is that Crystal Maiden is really good for early game bullying like this, like just really great. The double nuke, you've got a slow and a stun. They both do great damage. And as you can see here, this really should be a kill. I was kind of disappointed with both myself and the bounty hunter for getting a double stun like that. That was an easy kill, but what are you going to do? The goal wasn't to get a kill there anyway. The goal is just to bully him, to make him not think he can go and buy from the side shop and not think he can come in and just get some free experience. I want him to know he's not getting experience in my lane. As I was saying, the two-point arcane aura. I wish I would have tried it in these three. I'll be trying it more in the future. I do it a lot in different Crystal Maiden builds than this, and I think it's great. I mean, the amount that arcane aura helps your team, especially depending on what team you have. If you've got someone that wants to be spamming a lot of spells, I mean, we have Shadow Fiend who can really control mid the more that he can spam raises up. So in this case, that'd be a really great choice. Windrunner, the same thing. The more he can, Windrunner can control the lane with power shots, the better. And that was first blood for us. And here I get quite cocky. I'm thinking I've got a teammate to assist me. And it's pretty rare, actually, to have 3-point quas on an invoker, so I didn't realize how much that cold snap would really do to me. I thought maybe it would only get one or two procs off, but it got 3 there and really ruined me. And he nicely finished me off with a tornado that unfortunately also hit the teammate. I think that if that tornado hadn't hit Bounty Hunter, that might have been a second kill for Bounty Hunter. And I wouldn't have felt so bad about this death, but as it is, I stood there and auto attacked. So that was a poor choice. Maybe I was still riding the high of just having gotten first blood for my Bounty Hunter teammate there. Now here I'm quite surprised that Invoker stays in this lane and just lets my Shadow Fiend free farm there. Coming for the gank was great, and the gank succeeded and he walked away free, you know, but staying here like this, I'm sure that Crix called for help over voice chat or something, but now here's a major mistake by me. I shouldn't have been caught on the other side of my teammate, or on the other side of the enemies from my teammate. And you know, anytime your enemies start to fight together and you and your teammates start to fight apart, that's such a huge disadvantage that it doesn't really matter what the hero composition is at that point. So that was 2 quick mistake deaths on my part. Fortunately, I get to go back to base and look at my beautiful courier, so that's you know, that makes it a little bit better. That eases my heart just a little bit after these deaths, but unfortunately I have to leave that courier, that perfect courier, and go back out into the field of battle. And here I'm running back because I had just recently purchased those bracers, and so I don't even have enough to port back, which is really unfortunate. I'm losing a lot of experience here, but the one good aspect of this is that in the time I spent out of the lane, this bounty hunter hits 6, and a bounty hunter, you know, as soon as he hits 6, he makes a big impact on the game. Every kill that he was even close to just is worth so much more gold from this point out. From this point forward, the value of that bounty hunter goes up quite a bit. Well, as you can see, Invoker has had enough of killing me and has gone back to his lane. The reason for this is actually that in that time Shadow Fiend pushed down mid lane. And that's the danger here. Was that one death he got on me really worth losing that tower for free? I would say not. You know, getting that one gank and heading straight back to your lane, even TPing back to your lane, is really the way to go. You know, mid lane should be ganking if he's capable, but staying in those lanes and abandoning your own is a really bad idea. I'm not sure what this what the Sand King was doing per se, but it seemed like he just thought his Sandstorm was going to last longer than that. And it costs him his life. My bounty hunter got a little crazy, you know, tower diving like that this early. It's not a good idea, and I know he wanted the bounty money, but you know, greed doesn't really get you ahead in this game. What gets you ahead is smart play. And when you can just send a hero back, even if it's not a kill for you, just sending them back should be good enough, and you should let yourself, hold back from tower diving like that. I'm sure he thought I was going to tower dive too, but that wouldn't have saved him from dying. The tower still would have hit him just as many times, and he still would have gone down there. And I probably would have died too if I had done so. Here I think I'm going to die for a third time, which is very unfortunate. Now the laning phase is basically over. This is where mid-game starts. Around 10 minutes. It really depends on how the game's going and what the heroes are and what the players' strategies are like. But generally, around the 10-minute mark, you can be pretty confident that this is the time you should be playing more of a mid-game strategy. And for this particular Crystal Maiden build, that mid-game strategy is just ganking. It's just roaming and ganking. That's your goal. So you want to be looking for where the action is and just go there and try to sideswipe your enemies and use your incredibly potent spells to get your teammates some kills and get yourself some kills. With this build, you can't feel bad. Taking the last shots, taking the kills, the killing blows. That is one thing that I think is a misconception, a really bad misconception, is that supports and gankers should never take the last shot. That is absolutely not true. Oftentimes they should take it, especially if they're close to a key item. For instance, in this build, if you were really close to a arcane boots, then during your next gank, you really should be taking that last shot and finishing up those boots, and you'll be helping the team a lot more than maybe one of the mid game carries like this Shadow Fiend taking it and building nothing with it right away. So you really have to pay attention. There are no definitive, absolute definitive rules in Dota. The definitive rules in Dota sum up to maybe there's 2 of them. The only definitive rules that are always true in Dota: number 1 is have a great courier, because if you have the best courier, then you're gonna win. And number 2, not quite as important, but number 2 is just don't die. This is the rule of Dota. Just don't die. Whatever decision making you choose should be based on the moment, and the only thing that is always true in every moment is don't allow yourself to die. Don't give the other team that advantage of your death, that bonus experience and that bonus gold. Other than that, it's all based on what's happening at the time. Now here I try to get a really sneaky ult off, and this is one of the keys to Crystal Maiden, is trying to find the best positions to use your ult. I used the Fog of War, nobody knew I was there, and so I figured the edge of it would catch both Sand King and Invoker. And I was correct. I thought we would get the double kill, but I did hit Invoker with the edge of it there on the other side of the trees, and I did a lot of damage to Sand King, which assisted in his kill. So anytime you can use high ground and Fog of War, as I said in the last video, to really get a good Crystal Maiden ult off, you should be doing that. Now, just like in the first game, I'm really disappointed with our team's warding. I believe I mentioned in every game that we should get a second support that is dedicated to wards, and no one ever had any qualms with that, but they just didn't listen. So once again in this game, I fell into this trap of spending a lot of my early gold on wards, because I know how important vision is, and when our team doesn't have it, it doesn't sit right with me, so I have to get these wards. And I'll do this on no matter what hero I play. If I'm a carry and I'm playing a public game, if my team's not getting wards, I know that no matter how much I need gold, we need vision more. Even if you're a hard carry, that's the truth. You need vision as a team more than any one hero needs any items. So if your team is not cooperative, and they're not good enough players to realize that you need wards, then you should be a good enough player to realize it and get them yourself, no matter what hero you are. That's a rule I live by. And here I am a support, so if we're not getting wards, I'll get them for sure. There's no question. Unfortunately, it slows my build down quite a bit, and these 3 deaths slowed it down even more. So I can't be that ganking force that I would be already if I had these mana boots. And if a couple of these deaths hadn't happened, or if I didn't have to buy wards, I would have these mana boots, or I'd be very close. And that would make a huge difference on the potency I have in the game. Crystal Maiden with those early mana boots doesn't seem like you need them, because especially now, that the arcane aura affects you personally twice as much as it affects your teammates. That's great regen, but those mana boots, nothing beats those mana boots. And the two of them together mean that your ganking never has to stop. And that means that you have a huge effect on the game during the mid-game. You know, once that 9-minute or 10-minute mark hits and you're doing nothing but roaming, as you can see here, my gank on Lich failed, so I immediately TP to where the action is. That's what you have to do. Just constantly try to get ganks, constantly try to get these kills, and don't ever sit there and farm. Don't ever sit there and do anything. Don't be this sort of still force on the map. You should be all over the map. I let myself get killed there, and I really should have had wards in their jungle still, but I used my 2 wards on the other side of the map, just because that happened to be where I was ganking. So I do need my items, and I really badly need these arcane boots, so I'm just not I'm not prepared to get wards to ward up the entire map. I don't really want to ward the jungle here. I've got 1 rune spot taken care of, and I've got the bottom lane. These lane wards, I notice a lot of people don't do these wards, but these wards that see a little bit of the jungle and a little bit of a lane, these are really great, especially as close as you can get to their tower, so that you can see when they're entering a lane and when they're leaving it. Normally you couldn't see that because your creeps aren't there yet, they don't have vision, and so you don't really see when they enter your lane until they're really close to your tower or until they're coming for a gank. You don't see. Here's another cheeky ult. You can see I'm always looking for a spot where I can hide in the fog and ult, and that's just really great technique to constantly, try to master. When you're playing Crystal Maiden, always try to find these openings. And I know a lot of Crystal Maiden players don't get this ult at level 6, so even now that you're level 9, you wouldn't have it yet, because you would get it at 10 and 11. But if you are doing this build in particular, or any build where you do get this ult early, your main focus should really be trying to get these cheeky ults off, where you hide in the fog and just hit guys with the edge of it. You don't need to be right beside guys to ult them. This ult has a huge radius, so just be at a safe spot and hit people with the edge of it, as many people as you can catch. As you can see here, I do have the boots finally up, the mana boots, and just in time, because after that ult, I was running dry.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Dire's top tower is under attack.
As you can see, we just took that tower and both left. I'm still roaming. I'm still in the mindset of I need to go and help my teammates get some kills. So I want to be all over the map, and I want to be very unpredictable. Unfortunately, the bounty hunter wants to be a little suicidal, but at least he got a kill. And to be honest, if a bounty hunter goes in there and gets a track kill and then dies, I wouldn't suggest going for it, but it's not so much of a loss. In fact, it's a bit of a gain, because obviously a track kill is worth more than a regular kill. If there's assists involved, if other people are getting some of that track gold as well, then it is more than worth it to go and make these plays happen. If you die, but you and your teammates all got a bunch of track gold, then it's completely worth it. And Bounty Hunter's job right now is really to make the most of track as he can. It's not to farm at all. His job right now is to do the absolute opposite of farming, and that's basically my job, be in the action. But my job is to ensure kills, and his is to make those kills more profitable. He does add a lot of damage at this point in the game. But around the 25-30 minute mark, his power is really going to start to dwindle. Even though he may pick up a Deso, or he may pick up some great items, but his power is at a peak right now in the mid game. Now, as you can see, a lot of heroes are converging here, but we're really using that bounty hunter a lot, and I believe we do this quite a bit in this game. Just using that bounty hunter to scout out and see what kind of plays we can make. Now here we got very arrogant, and I pay for it with my life. In this game I get punished quite a bit for poor play, and it shows in my final score, but that can happen, and sometimes you just gotta learn from these little mistakes and just move on. That was nobody's fault but my own. I saw through Bounty Hunter's vision a couple guys, and I figured we might go make a play, but right now their team is really wisening up, and they're doing what you should do in the mid-game and just sticking together, you know. That is the most important, and they're making great use of teamwork. It seems like they're communicating quite well as well. This is a game where communication is key.
My loyalty.
As long as they stick together like that and roam as 5, you know, play some real 5-man Dota, or 4, you know, even roam as 4, then what we're doing is not going to work, because what we're doing right now is staying as 2 or 3 and just trying to get ganks and trying to get that bounty hunter to open up some ganks for us. But they're sticking together, so that's not going to work anymore. And as soon as you realize that what you're doing isn't going to work because your team is sticking together, or their team is sticking together too much, what you need to do is start sticking together as well and just wait for their openings, wait for them to make a mistake. Now that they've gotten a taste for winning a team fight, you know, they went up there and killed a couple of us together. They're going to try that a lot. You know, once a team is successful doing something, they're going to try and repeat it as much as they can, and that's often actually a big fault of teams, is that they think they can just keep getting away with the same thing over and over again. And if you can communicate enough together in a public game to punish them for that, then, you know, really great things can happen. Right now, we're a little too spread out, and I don't think that any of us are in position or even have the proper TPs to come and defend if they decided to 5 push here.
Invisibility.
As you can see, Lone Druid is soloing Roshan, and I don't think any of us noticed him go in there. Partially my fault for not having Roshan wards up, even though I said at the start of the game I wasn't going to focus on wards. I thought Windrunner would do it, because she picked after I said that, but unfortunately here my stubbornness of not getting wards cost us a Roshan. You know, they got free Roshan just because I didn't want to get wards. So as you can see, you know, if your team's not getting them, just get them. And I realize that now. I don't know they're in there, but I guess it's just my instincts kicking in, realizing that I really need a ward there, and so I buy it, but it's too late. And here I go in way too deep there. Try to initiate, but there's no one around to initiate for. The team is not prepared to go in a big fight like that. Our only saving grace here is that throughout this game, everything that the opposing team does, they really don't defend their side lanes. We got quite a few. I think at this point we've gotten 3 or 4 side lane towers. Like, I think all 4 were just not defended at all. They were just the enemy team were just doing something else and not paying attention to their side lanes. Really focusing. That's the one downfall to focusing on 5-man Dota is you can't be everywhere at once. You know, as a big group like that. So you can try your best to just avoid them and just push the other lanes wherever they are. Just go furthest from where they are and just try to do as much damage as you can before they come to defend. And I don't think that any of us had that strategy in mind, although that is a very successful strategy. It just happened to work out that way. And every time they tried to make a play, or they all went all 5 for an early Roshan, and just happened to cost them a tower or 2 to make these 5-man plays. And that's a lot of gold going our way. In fact, I would venture a guess that we're actually quite a bit ahead in gold, although I'm not looking at the graphs right now. Even though we're behind in kills, you know, those towers make much more of a difference. Here I try for another cheeky ult in the Fog of War, but unfortunately Magnus put a quick stop to that. With his ult, you know, he may have only caught one person in his ult, but he stopped my channeling from hitting all of them. So to me, that's a great Magnus ult to use. And Magnus's ult has a low cooldown, so it's pretty hard to waste it if you catch anybody in it. If it ends up being a kill, then you didn't waste it. There's that fantastic courier again. Having a great courier like this is it's a boost to morale, you know? How can you disappoint that courier by losing? You can't bring yourself to do such a thing. here we go out and try to punish them for pushing too far. They're still damaged and still drained in mana from earlier team fights, and we got the opportunity in our base to fully heal up now. We didn't really calculate the Aegis being there, and while he was rezzing, the bear did quite a number on me, but to be fair, it was better me than anybody else. I think that bear during that time probably could have killed any one of us, and I'm just glad he killed me after I used my spells and my ult was on cooldown. I'd rather him kill me than the other teammates there. Now that was our first glimpse of hope in the last few minutes. Since they got that 5-man gank top end, since they took Roshan for free, we've been majorly on the back foot. And them overextending like that and us coming back, that was a real ray of hope in this game. Sort of a turning point, if you will. Now I'm still buying awards, as you see. I've got the wards there, and I haven't used them yet since that Roshan, since there was so much action. But I'm discouraged that by 25 minutes I don't have Blink Dagger yet. You really need Blink Dagger quicker than this to make this build work. Right now I'm just sort of a mana battery more than anything. I don't make a huge impact on the game without that Blink Dagger, and I can't escape as well, and I can't set up my ult as well. Although here was a brilliant ult setup because they were so focused on getting that Luna that 2 players walked through the ult and died for it. Unfortunately, they did eventually catch that Luna, and so it just ended up being a 2-2 trade, but that double kill was nice. Made me feel good, at least. It just shows that even this late in the game, the ult can be quite powerful. It does a lot of damage. If they let you channel it, then they absolutely will regret it. So that is the idea of the build, is to just utilize this ult as much as possible. As you can see, this Shadow Fiend is going for... He's going for a pretty common Shadow Blade build here. And he's making good use of scouting out what's happening. Both him and Bounty Hunter have been pretty good for giving us vision and giving us an idea of what the enemy team's movements are, and that's really important if you're a wind-walking hero like the Bounty Hunter. Then you have to understand that it's part of your responsibility to give vision of the other team, and to always be checking to make sure that they can't have vision of you. You shouldn't find out that the team has a gem by walking into them and dying. You should know that they have a gem by clicking on the enemy heroes before you walk into them. And just as I say that, Bounty Hunter does walk into them and almost dies. He gets caught up in a tornado, and the whole team almost catches up to him. So, here they're still sticking as 5, and as you can see, we are really split apart. Because we see they're still sticking as 5, we made the team call over voice comm for that Shadow Fiend to push into their base, and it forces them to come back. And I was going to keep pushing, just push mid. I want, if they're going to take a freebie tier 1, we couldn't defend it anyway, because we weren't in position, which is our fault. But because we already knew we were out of position and couldn't defend it, I just wanted 2 lanes to be right in their face so that they couldn't keep pushing into the tier 2, which is what they decide to do anyway. And so we come in and punish them for that. If you can't, if your whole team can't come and defend a 5-man push, then what you should do is just make sure the other lanes are always a threat to them. Now here we have a pretty good team fight at first, but we make the absolute classic mistake of just trying to chase way too far. If you have gotten a kill and pushed them back, then be satisfied with that, because otherwise, no matter how good you're feeling, this can happen. Beautiful Magnus ult. They decide to turn and fight right into a beautiful epicenter, and that pretty much full wipes us. Windrunner managed to windrun away, but other than that, it was a pretty nasty team fight. It seems like Shadow Fiend just managed to get away too using Shadow Blade. That was more luck than anything. So the lesson there is just if you won the defensive fight, you know, you got your kill, you got your 2 kills, and they back off. Sometimes it's not the right idea to chase them. Sometimes it is. It's always a judgment call, right? There's, like I said, there's no solid rules in Dota. You can't just say never chase them there, but just try your best to read the scenario. And once you understand very specific things, like you know Sand King's ult is up because he didn't use it in that fight, and you know Magnus's ult is up because he didn't use it in that fight, and you know what a powerful combo that is, especially with someone that can add so much more DPS like that Invoker. You know you really shouldn't be running into that on their side of the woods. It's a really bad idea. However, if they had used those ults, then a chase there was really good, because we were bound to catch up to them, which we did. And if they didn't have those ults, then it would have worked out really well for us. But being perceptive enough to really notice this and keep track of these things, you know, which ults are on cooldown, and which ults do they still have, and that should be a huge basis for how you make your decisions, especially when you're playing against a team with huge ults like we are here. I mean, the combo of Magnetor's ults, as well as the Epicenter and the Lich ult. When they have a combo like that, you just have to keep track of which ults they still have on off cooldown. Now here I do another sneaky ult, just trying to catch them right at the edge of its radius, but to stay away from them. You know, I see their big damage dealers are melee, both Magnus and the Bear. So even though I'm not on high ground where I have a Fog of War advantage, I still had an advantage where they couldn't come up and melee me there. So it was a good place to ult, and I caught 3 of them in it. And as you can see, those 3 are all dead now. That Invoker came up behind us, and I think he probably was assuming he could get away just with Ghost Walk, but he wasn't quick enough, and we killed him. Now, finally, after one good fight, I get my Blink Dagger. My Magnificent Courier is bringing it out to me, I believe, as we speak. Yeah, here he comes. Bringing me my Blink Dagger. Even though it's late, that positioning is still very key, and from this point forward, you know, this is the late game, and from this point forward, it's all about team fights. And so, with this build, with focusing on the ult, what you contribute to the team fights strongly depends on your positioning, and it you know, you can reposition very well with that Blink Dagger. That's the key to your positioning, and your positioning is the key to your team fight power. So even getting it late is still worth it. But right now, what's going through my head is, do I really want this Shadow Amulet? Because I know that this Shadow Fiend has Shadow Blade, and I know that the Bounty Hunter is on my team, so I know that the other team is constantly getting True Sight. So this Shadow Amulet, probably not a good idea at all. So I'm considering my options here. And the option I eventually go with, as you'll see, is Drums of Endurance. I quickly check to make sure none of my teammates have Drums of Endurance, because the auras do not stack. And it's a good item for anyone to pick up. I don't benefit at all from the attack speed aura, obviously. But the extra stats are something that Crystal Maiden desperately needs, which is something I mention in my articles. That if you're considering different items on Crystal Maiden, get the ones that provide stats, and I'm talking strength and int. You know, you need that health and mana as you go through the game, that's for sure. And so I'll go with Drums of Endurance here. And I think it's the right call. I think that even if you particularly aren't going to be a right clicker that needs that attack speed, your team does need it, and those charges help team fights. You know, you get those 3 charges, and to be honest, there may only be 3 team fights left in this game before a win or less. So at this point, Drums of Endurance are really great for anyone to play. As you can see here, I mean, after the defensive battle where we actually pulled it together and won, We're finally starting to play together as a team. It took us too long to do this. The opponents started to play together, started to play some real 5-man Dota about 10 minutes earlier than we did, and it made a huge difference. It really turned the game around for them. As you can see, they're still ahead in kills, and they're finally catching up slowly but surely in towers. So it just goes to show the importance of, when that mid game just starts to wrap up, you really need to start playing together as a team and formulating a strategy. You need to communicate and just say, what do we want to push or defend next? Do we want to push this next? Do we want to defend this next? Do we want to group up as 5, fight them here and take Roshan? Or, do we want to force a team fight and push this tower afterwards? You have to make these decisions as a team. And the team to start doing that first is usually the team that takes the advantage going into the late game. Now here I was poorly positioned to defend this. I knew that they would be probably pushing soon, but I was hoping we could make something happen, and before I knew it I was way out of position, and so I came to this fight a little late, but being as how they were focusing me first in all the other fights, it might have been more of a blessing than a curse that I showed up late. I managed to blink in, and you can see how much damage that I managed to actually do with that ult. It was quite a bit onto 3 heroes. I do a lot of damage, so even though I only got the ult off, that was the only spell I got in that team fight and then immediately died afterwards, I consider that a victory, personal victory. That you go in and you can do that much damage in the team fight. Crystal Maiden's ult can do as much damage as anybody else in a team fight, so if you manage to do that, then that's great. You may have just made the difference for your team in that fight. And in this fight, you can see the importance of making sure the other lanes are cleared before you push. If you make the decision to push into a tier 3 and you're trying to get into the opponent's base, you need to make sure that the other 2 lanes that you're not pushing are not anywhere near your base. Or this can happen on top. You can see, just because they made a decision to push without keeping their other lanes in control, they are taking massive damage on the tower. They're gonna lose that tower just because of a poor decision they made. Whereas if all they did was make that decision and then say, okay, wait for us to clear the other lanes to push them closer to the opponent's side, it makes all the difference in the world. You have to meticulously make sure that all 3 lanes are pushing towards them before you try to push into any of the tier 3s. That's really important, because at this point in the game, the few seconds that it's going to take, that it would have taken to personally do that damage on that tower, that might be the few seconds they needed to defend the tower when we go up there. So letting neutral creeps do that much damage to a tier 3 is just not acceptable. As you can see, our defensive warding is nothing, basically. So I am distraught by this, and once again decide to do something about it. There you can see my warlock ward. And I was going to go place another defensive ward, but I see that my team really wants to take action. And as you can see, the opposing team really wants us to take action too. They're feeling the pressure here, and they don't think they can win. Unfortunately, there again is the bad habit of Dota players to give up too easily. Because we're by no means ahead here as far as real game control goes, or even team fighting potential. I think we're a little behind still in that. But where we're ahead is just morale and mentality. They have the mentality that they're going to lose, and because of that mentality, they're right. There you can see again, I use a wall. I just separate myself from the enemies with a wall, and then use my ult. And I get some decent damage in, and I actually get out this time, which is pretty miraculous. And so I decided to go into their jungle, and I really want to put a ward up there, but then I see that it's probably too dangerous, so I figure I'll just go back in here and chill with my amazing courier. By this point, We have pretty much won because we pushed into their mid tier 3 and actually managed to kill 4 of them. Now neutral creeps are doing our job for us and just pushing that tier 3 down. So
Middle tower is
by
under
this point we have a very strong advantage that it would be hard to throw away. The one way we could throw it away is if we basically did what that bounty hunter just did and try to take matters too much into our own hands. At this point, the team has to be working together, and even if you go off on your own, it should be a team decision to split push, not just you decided to go and do something on your own. If you're not working as a team here, then you're not playing Dota properly. And that's true even in a public game. It's hard to work as a team in a public game, but that's not really an excuse because there are many tools of communication, and if your team's not ready to communicate, then they're likely the team that's going to lose. Now here I see that they're pushing our top lane, and there's no one around to push it back except for me, and I really want this farm because at this point I finished the drums, and I'm thinking about Agnum Scepter now. I don't think the game is going to last that long. I'm not thinking that it probably will, but I still want to start building it. I want those extra stats so that I can stand and fight a little stronger in the next team fight. So I want at least the first piece towards it, and I know that at any point, if they turtle up really well, I know that the power of their ults and the power of a late game lone druid can stall this game up really, really badly. So just because you think you're winning doesn't mean you shouldn't build for a longer game. So I'm building towards Aghanim Scepter here right away because I know that this game can get stalled up. I know that Dota can just go that way. Sometimes the game will just stall up out of nowhere, and a game you thought would have been over 20 minutes ago, you know, lasts another 30 minutes longer.
Double damage.
And of course, for this build, Aghanim Scepter is the right choice for a sort of a late game luxury item. The reason for that is just you're focusing still on the ult. Throughout the game, right from level 6, you're focusing on the ult with this build. That's the purpose of the build. Here I use some tricky tactics to get into a much better position for this team fight. Otherwise I would have died. Always, when you're using any build with a Blink Dagger, always think of all the uses of the Blink Dagger. Always think of everything that you can do. And here I sneak into the Fog of War before I start that ult, but it's no good. The Magnus is wise to that trick and makes for a really nice ult there and cancels it again. That Magnus had my number this game. No matter though, our Shadow Fiend is hitting incredibly hard already, and with that team fight, 41 minutes into a game, when you pretty much team wipe them and they're on their tier 3s, you know that losing a team fight like this probably means racks. They realize it and they call GG, but they still fight on a little bit here. I think that with that team fight, we just push in. We just push in and racks them, and then from that point forward, that's game. Invoker does what he can here, some pretty good spells, but Invoker's not really great for defending, especially on his own. He does have to get fairly close to do these spells, even though he does have a wide variety of AoE spells. By himself, he can't really defend. And so we're not deterred at all. We just basically pounce on them when they try to defend. I even TP to try and get there a little quicker, just TP to the tier 3. Because I think that if me and Bounty Hunter can get there, then our push will not be stalled anymore. And we can just get right into the racks. I'm not sure what my thought process is here, just kind of dancing around like that. I probably was really wanting to put this ward up, and wanted to get a really good placement on it for what's happening in the game. You know, a lot of people fall into this sort of rhythm where they always put the wards in the exact same place over and over again. That's a really, really bad habit. The best thing to do with your wards, when you're going to be warding for your team, and if you're a support player, you're often going to be doing that. And if you're a smart player who just doesn't even play support but just plays a lot of public games, you're often going to be warding anyway, despite what role you play. And so breaking yourself of the habit of just putting them in the same place over and over again is a really good thing to do. You should always think about what's happening in the game right now. How does the game stand right now, and where are they most likely going to be passing through that you need to have vision of. If they're pushing mid lane, we need to see if it's all 5 of them. I really wanted the high ground on their side of mid lane right there. And so that's why I put it there. It might not have been the best spot for the scenario, but it certainly was not a bad spot. It's never bad to have lane vision. Probably could have tried to have it a little further up so that we can have a really early warning for when they're going to start 5-man pushing. Here, what happens is they get caught, that bear gets caught trying to solo Roshan, and it turns into this really weird back and forth fight where they came on top of the fight, but they have to retreat and there's no one around anymore. So immediately Windrunner chases, he's got sheep sticks, so that was an easy kill, and now he's pinging Roshan like crazy. He really wants Shadow Fiend to go and help him kill Roshan. So that's what he does. We go and get a free Roshan because of that weird kill there. And that's what can happen when you assume the opposing team doesn't have wards on Roshan and you just go and try to solo it this late into the game. It's a really bad idea. It doesn't matter. The question isn't whether you can solo it or not, because this late into the game most heroes can solo it. The question is, will they notice, and are you going to get just totally destroyed there by yourself? Whether you can solo it or not doesn't matter this late into the game. You should still be doing it as a team. It should be a team decision to go get Roshan. And if it's not, you're going to get punished for it, as they just found out. Now I'm just practicing what I preach here, and I really want to push mid, but I'm not ready. I'm not prepared to push mid with this creep wave so close to our tier 2. Even though it's just a tier 2, you shouldn't be giving it away for free just because you want to push right now. You should take the time to push it away just a little bit, so you know that the creep wave isn't going to come and get free towers while you're all grouped up in mid. You should always be practicing this. Do you want to push? Well, okay, if you want to push now, then you should be immediately pushing the other lanes, the side lanes, if you want to push mid. Or, just be keeping all the lanes pushed towards their base right before you're gonna try and get in for the kill on the tier 3. And Shadow Fiend does double damage, so it seems like there is no better time but to go right now. He's already critting like a beast, so with double damage and with our whole team here, this should be a pretty easy win as long as we position properly. No matter how far ahead you are, in a team fight, it's all about positioning and proper use of your skills, and a couple mix-ups where the wrong player engages before anyone's ready or something like that can really throw a loop in your plans. Now here, I do this trick again. I always put a wall in between me and my opponents before I start the ult. I may not be so close to them as to hit all of them, but the edge of the ult is definitely going to do good damage, and I'm not putting myself at risk there, so it's a lot better to do that than to get proper positioning, rather than just to jump right in the middle of them and try to ult all of them, because that's just a guaranteed death right away. You're not going to do much that way.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
As you can see, I haven't picked up my first piece of Aghanims yet. I really wanted to get that point booster, as I always like to get the Ogre Axe and the point booster first, but in this case I know the game's about to end, so I just get the first 2 pieces on the list, and that's it. It looks like we're just attacking the I'm missing all the action. We're attacking the throne, and I believe the game just ends right here. So I hope you guys enjoyed that game. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. I just wanted to do a voiceover of the replay so that I could give you my thoughts both on the build and on Dota in general. These videos and the articles related to these videos that you can go check out at /play.net. The purpose of them is to appeal to all players. Even veteran players can just kind of see a new build that might be fun to try, and you can go and try it out. And newer players can sort of get into the mindset of more experienced Dota You can kind of try to understand the things that a more experienced player would think about in the midst of a game, and get used to these habits, breaking bad habits and forming really good ones to make yourself a stronger player. Anyway, guys, this is Jakal from /play.net, and I hope you really enjoyed this video.